Hi.
We are live, and Kristi, I think you can start.
Okay. Hi, everybody joining us out there in the world. I am so excited to virtually introduce Kathy Collins. Kathy Collins is a teacher, consultant, writer extraordinaire. She's written 2 unbelievable books, Growing Readers and Reading for Real. Both of those books infuse practical day-to-day wisdom with huge, big ideas. Kathy is what I would call a teacher's teacher, just like someone could be a chef's chef or a man's man. Kathy is a teacher's teacher. She understands the humanity and the beauty and the joy required to be a teacher. One of the things I most admire about her is she's the type of person who makes you want to be better than the teacher you were yesterday. So I'm incredibly excited to introduce this amazing person. Hopefully you're all at home on your couch with coffee because you're about to have a great hour with Kathy Collins.
Am I on? Oh, hey, thanks, Kristi. So I just want to do a reverse triple sow cow introduction. Thank you to Kristi for introducing me. What an honor. Kristi's presenting later today at 2. On Play, so stay on your couches, get a new cup of coffee, but stay tuned for Kristi later. So thank you, Kristi. So, so my presentation today is Make Big Meaning in Little Books, and before I even begin, I just want to say thank you to people who are watching right now on a Saturday. Last Saturday I was in California at the Coates Foundation, and there were about 600 teachers on a Saturday attending a conference with a variety of presenters. And then this Saturday I'm working with teachers, and then in a few weeks I'll be in New York with thousands of teachers at the Teachers College Reading Writing Project Saturday reunion. And I wish the world knew how hard and how often you're working, and they have no idea. And then for those of you teachers who might be watching this at some random time, that's not today, it could be any time. It's amazing you choose these kinds of YouTube videos and not, I don't know, the Screaming Goats or the Jimmy Fallon lip sync battles, but that you're watching education videos. So anyway, welcome to my workshop. So this is my first time, so let me see if I can be smooth. We'll try. I'm going to go over to my PowerPoint right now, and let's see how this will work. Oh, no, wait a second. Be patient with me. Screen share, go. Okay, so my workshop, Make Big Meaning in Little Books, and the hashtag Ed Collaborative Gathering, #1. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to tweet, and if we have time, we'll try to address some in the session. But let's see. So because of the time constraints, I'm just going to angle this to how to have conferences to support little readers who are reading little books. And what we often think about is what we often worry about is, what am I to say to a child who's reading a book with 3 words on a page and 8 pages in the whole book, and when it's a book they've read 1,000 times over the course of the week? So that's what I'm intending to address today. So I'll run through my PowerPoint, and then we'll, like I said, we'll pause for if there are any questions. So let's see. So let me just set a scene for you. It's reading workshop time in a K2 classroom. The readers have just read books that they're reading by themselves, and the teacher is working the room, conferring, and meeting with small groups. And so, I'm in our scene we're creating, I'm assuming that there will be some children in this classroom who are reading books that are the early level books. If we think of Fountas and Pinnell levels, we might think A through D, E-ish, and I can't remember the DRA equivalencies to those, but you guys probably have your form DRA Fountas and Pinnell equivalencies form at the ready. So I don't know. But anyway, so this is the scene. So the teacher's approaching some kids to have either one-on-one conferences or small group instruction. And here are some challenges we typically see when children read those little books. Well, first of all, what do I confer about when they're reading a book they've read a dozen times? So chances are at this point they've solved the words, and chances are at this point they've read it enough so they sort of read it in that smooth and fast way. So as you sit down with them, you don't really have word work to do with them in these little books, and you may or may not have fluency work. They might read it smoothly. So then we think about comprehension, habits. How could I confer into their comprehension? How might I confer into their reading habits and behaviors? And pleasure. How might I confer into supporting them with response to their reading, having ideas, having something to say? And I think of those things in this second bullet point or daisy point or sunflower point. I don't know what it would be, but what kind of comprehension work is even possible in those little books they've read over and over? So anyway, moving right along. Well, one option is to support them in rereading, but not just rereading in a way that my eyes are going over the page again, but in a rereading to rethink and to talk. So I lifted this from Ellen Keene in the way that we lift things, that idea of rereading as rethinking. So one of the things that I'll try to support children with are having purposes for their rereading. So this is just an example of a, chart items that, and teaching points you might make in mini lessons or small group instruction or conferences to support children in having purposes for rereading. So some of the purposes, well, you can look through this chart. I'll be quiet for a minute. Okay, now I'll start again. The last one, I always leave, on any chart that I make, I always leave blank, reread to, because I want the children to understand that they can invent other possibilities, that the source of inspiration and the source for all they do does not just come from the teacher, but it can come from each other, and it can come from their own work. So on charts, I always leave a blank bullet point, and then over the course of time, children will often add sticky notes or something to the chart. And once, if I see a chart that has a bunch of sticky notes, maybe during a share time at the end of reading workshop or writing workshop or inquiry or whatever, where children are adding onto charts, I'll find a share time that we can just revise and add to our charts with some new ideas that have come from the children. So anyway, those are some purposes for rereading. So let's just imagine a conference. I'm about to put up a snippet from a conference, and we can imagine what we might do with that in that conference to support a child in rereading. So imagine, here's the conference snippet. So the teacher approaches a child, we'll say Theo for this one. So the teacher approaches a child and imagine he's got all his books out, and as you approach, he sort of pauses and looks at you. So teacher might say something to this effect. Hey, so will you pick a book to read with me? And Theo slides over a book, this one. Hey, I'm curious, why'd you pick this one out of all these books you've been reading? And he says, I like it, or something to that effect. And then the teacher, whatever they hand you, you pearl into something of significance to reading lives. So when he says, I like it, then I might say something like, oh, hey, Theo, that is a great reason to reread a book. I always reread books that I really like. So you want to reread this one. Well, so what do you want to do when you reread it? How do you want to do it? So we could reread it like storytellers and our best reading voice, or do you want to reread it and this time we could really study the pictures to see what we notice? And then maybe Theo's going to say something like, I want to study the pictures. And then, so teacher number one, I'm going to give you 3 different endings for this. So when Theo says, okay, let's study the pictures, teacher number one, or one option, and I'm not saying teacher number one, like, yeah, she's the best teacher of all. She's just number one. I don't, for clarification. So anyway, teacher number one says, so let's reread this and we'll pause and study the pictures. How about, okay, we'll do it this way. You read the words and I'll help us remember to study the pictures. And then we can think and talk about what we notice. So that's one way, and then you can imagine Theo reads the words and the teacher might say, hey, let's stop and study this. Let's just think about it. What are we noticing here? So another way this might go, teacher number two might say something like, so Theo says, okay, let's study the pictures. So teacher number two might say, oh, so you're going to study the pictures and you'll think about new things you notice, or you'll think about finding something new you hadn't noticed before. So how about if you get us started? Because this teacher maybe she had taught this in a mini lesson, or she had taught this to him in a conference before, and she wants to see how it's going for him. So she sets him up to get it started, and then she's going to work from there to see which ways she can support or nudge his work. So another version, teacher number three might come into this and say, hey, yeah, when we study the pictures, we can get new ideas and thoughts about the book. Can I show you what that looks like on the first page, and then you can go and do it on the next page? So this is the teacher who realizes or understands, based on past observations of Theo or what she knows about Theo, that he might need a little step stool, a little support to lift him up to this work. And the step stool or the support she's offering is to show him what it might look like on the first page, and then letting him try it on the second page. So with this conference snippet, a couple things that I just want to point out. First, for the teacher, the child, if the child has read all their books a million times, one of the best ways to get work in a conference is to have the child pick the book they want to read with you. And posing the question, will you pick a book to read with me, versus can you read with me, I feel like there's nuance there, and I'm not quite sure how to articulate that. But hey, will you pick a book to read with me gives the child the control. They're picking the one. And then I'm always curious. I always ask, why this book now? And so I like it. And a follow-up question could have even been, well, what do you like about it? That could have been another way to go. But any information like that, I'm trying to be so resourceful and just figure out what the child feels about their books, what attracts them to books. And if he just shrugs his shoulders, if I said, why did you pick this one? And he just sort of shrugged his shoulders and said, I don't know, then I might say, well, let's figure out what it is about this book that you really appreciate, or that you wanted to look back over it. What's the reason? So anyway, just the other intention here is to show, so the child said he wanted to study the pictures. The teacher, if you look to the part before, when she says, how do you want to reread it like storytellers, or reread it to study the pictures? Those might have been two things she has taught the class already. And maybe she thinks she wants to see how Theo plays out with one of these two things. So when he makes the choice, see again, there's another opportunity for child's choice in this conference. He chooses to study the pictures, and then the teacher can decide how she wants to angle it. Do I want to see what he does with it? Do I think he needs more support? So I'll get him started, etc. So, do I keep saying etc.? I feel like I keep saying it. I'll try to stop now. So another option, when you are sitting beside a child who's reading one of those early level books that they've read a million times, you feel like I don't have word decoding support to offer, I don't have fluency support to offer, here's another option. We could help the child be able to articulate something in the zone of, what's this about? Yeah, so, okay, you finished this book? What was that about? So some of the steps here are to have the child reread, consider the text as a whole, because often they will zoom in on one part of the text. And then the third one is that we can get them to use the text to back up some of their ideas that they're having. So I'm trying to slow down because I feel like I'm going 150,000 miles per hour. So no, I won't do it like that, but here. So I wrote a book because I wanted to be really careful about fair use, and I was reading the bylaws and fine print and constitutional amendments and all of that about fair use. And I even tried to use my close reading strategies, and I still didn't really understand what the heck is fair use. So I decided the safest thing to do would be just to make up my own book. So what I've tried to do is make a book that mimics an early reader book. And so my book is Our Dog. And we'll just go through the book really quickly, and then see what we can do with it to help support the child in being able to say, what's this book about? Our dog. Our dog likes to run in the snow. Our dog likes to lay in the grass. Oh, wait a second. Should that be lie in the grass? Uh-oh, editor. Well, I'll revise it after. So our dog likes to run in the snow. Our dog likes to lay in the grass. Our dog likes to sit in the car. Our dog likes to play with us. We love our dog, and our dog loves us. So that's the book that was just published today here in the Educator Collaborative webinar. So here's a little conferring snippet, and we'll talk about how to get the child to say or to think towards bigger ideas about the book. So the conference might go like this. Hey, now I'll use Owen. Hey, Owen, I know you read all of these books a bunch of times. Will you pick one you want to talk about? And Owen, this one, Our Dog. Hey, I'm curious, why did you pick this one out of all of your books? Well, I like it. That is a great reason to talk about a book. So what do you think it's about? And Owen might say, I don't know, because he might not be quite sure what my question means, or he just might not know what it's about. Another child might say, it's about dogs. We'll make this child Shauna. So Shauna says, it's about dogs. And then child number 3 might say, the dog's sitting in the car, which I would be most like child 3, because I think there's nothing funnier than when dogs are sitting in the car in the driver's seat waiting for their people to come out of this grocery store. So anyway, those are 3 possible three of the possible kid responses, but of course we know they could say anything. So anyway, what do we do with this? Well, the challenges we have is the first child who says, I don't know, he just might not know. So the way we support Owen in this case is we provide strategies to be able to tell what a book is about. The second child, Shauna, was very general. She said, oh, this book is about dogs. So in this case, if the child's very general, we teach the child how to be more specific about this particular book. And I think a lot about Vicki Vinton, her blog, To Make a Prairie. She had this amazing blog post about how to help kids be able to say what is the main idea about a book, and how to move them away from generalities. And I wish I had the link to her blog post about this, but just go to Vicki Vinton, find her blog To Make a Prairie, and you'll be happy that you did that. But anyway, the third child picks one part. We often hear a child just pick one page that sticks with them and say, oh, it's about a dog sitting in a car. So in this case, our teaching move might be to teach a child how to look across the book and connect the pages. So let's play around with this, shall we? So here goes. So you see the conference snippet is largely the same for that first case where the child just doesn't know what to do. So the teacher's response might be to say something to this effect. Well, you want to know what I do when I'm not sure what a book is about? Well, I read the title, and then I reread the book, and I think, how does this title and these pages go together? So let's do that. So the title of your book is Our Dog. And let's just go through and read the pages and think, how do these go together, and what might it be about? So, etc., etc. Oh, I said it again. I didn't mean to. But let's try another one. So here's Shauna, child number 2, who is very general. So, oh, that's a great reason to talk about a book. You like it. So what's it about? Shauna says dogs. And then the teacher's response could be something like this. Well, when you say dogs, I'm wondering if it's about a lot of dogs, or is it just about one dog? Let's look closely again to see if this book is about one specific dog or if there's lots of dogs on the pages. So we flip through and the child, Shauna, says, well, it's about one dog and this white one. So then the teacher could say, yeah, you know, you're right. This one white dog is on all the pages and the title is Our Dog. It's like this book, like someone's telling us about their dog. So let's turn the pages and see what they're telling us about this one dog. So, and more, of course, it could go further. So now let's think about the third child, who is the dog sitting in the car, who picked out a special page that they wanted to talk about, that the dog's sitting in the car. So the teacher could say something like, hey, I noticed that page too. Oh, you know, I love it when dogs are sitting in cars. It's so funny. But when we're trying to figure out what a book is about, we can look across the pages and just see how they all go together. Sometimes that can help us figure it out. So let's see, what is a dog doing across the pages? And in this way, what we're trying to do is help the child not zoom in on one page of interest, but sort of pull back and zoom out and get the aerial view of the book. Now, here's a couple things. This is a list book. It's hard, listy type of book, I should say. It's hard to be able to say exactly what this book is about. But what kinds of responses might be strong responses? So here's a variety. A child might say, well, this is a book about a dog that likes to do lots of different things. And then the teacher might say, like what? You know, getting them to use text evidence to support their thinking. Or this is a book about a dog, kids and their dog. Well, what about kids and the dog? So anyway, you see where that's going. Here's another option, a third thing that a teacher could do when a child is sitting with a book that they've read a million times. Again, you don't really have word support you can offer. You don't really know how to, or have an opportunity to support their fluency. So what we want to do is to support their, just thinking about it and lingering with the book a little bit. And so another option is, what might the character here be thinking or saying? Which is really, in other words, inferring, just really studying the clues in the picture and maybe what the text says to get an idea of what a character might be thinking or saying. So we reread and study the pictures, and the work of the reader then is to be the character's talk bubbles or to be the character's thought bubbles. And so here's an example. Imagine that we're reading the book, Our Dog. And so actually, let me show you something really quickly. So I'm going to try to stop the screen share of my PowerPoint and come back. Oh, so you guys can see me. Somebody's knocking at my door. It's one of my son's friends, so I'm just going to ignore it. But you might see through these windows here a kid just staring in, wondering what Owen and Theo's mom is doing. Anyway, so what I'm holding up is something that some teachers that I worked at a school, HKIS, some kindergarten teachers and I were working on, being a character's thought bubble and talk bubble. And I made a sort of a silly version. They made a beautiful version that was laminated, but it's just a pencil, and they used tongue depressors or popsicle sticks. But here's a talk bubble, and here's a thought bubble, and this could be one of the tools in a child's reading bin. So as they're reading with their partner or reading by themselves, they can just lay this next to the character and this helps remind them that they could be the character's voice, or that they could be the character's thinking about their book. So let me, I'm going to go back, try to go back to my screen, my PowerPoint for a second. Okay, look at that elegant transition. Oh, okay, anyway, enough of that. So you see, so just imagine that talk bubble that I put on the page. Just imagine that that was, you know, a talk bubble or a thought bubble on a popsicle stick. So, and the child holds it next to the dog sitting in the driver's seat. So maybe I, the teacher, say, let's be, you know, this dog, let's pretend we're this dog in the book. Here, let's pick a page. This is my favorite page. I love the dog sitting in the car. So let me be the, I'm going to be this dog's thought bubble. Let's see, what would the dog be thinking? I'm just thinking about dog. Why would she be sitting in the car like that? Oh, gee, her owner, the family is probably in the store or something, and she's waiting. So what could that dog be thinking? Let's see. She might be thinking, oh, I hope they buy me some dog treats this time. I hope they have some dog treats in those bags. And then I might say to the child, what do you think the dog could be thinking? And here's what children often do. The child might say he might be thinking that he wants them to come back. So then I would say to the child, okay, be the dog's thought bubble. How would the dog think that? And the child might say, he wants them to come back. And then I would say, well, if he was thinking that, the dog might say, ooh, I hope they come back soon. What else might he be thinking? And then the child might say, I hope they hurry up. But that's a typical move we see when we ask a child to be a thought bubble or talk bubble. They narrate the thought. Oh, he's probably thinking, I hope they come back. And we want them to be the thought, or to be the, you know, to say the dialogue, or to say you know, to be the, I don't know what you would say, think aloud for the dog. So, and, you know, we can just be really, this is a really playful, fun thing to do with the book, too. We can really have fun with this with a child. So then we move across the pages. Now, if you look at the next one, it says our dog likes to play with us. It's that page. So on that page, what I could do is we could be the kids' voices. We can move that talk bubble around to all three characters on that page, where, you know, I might say, this kid saying, hey, you can't get me, and then we could move the talk bubble to the dog, and, you know, what would the dog be saying? And ruff, 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 I can get you, I'm faster than you, I've got 4 legs, I'm super fast. And then that other kid, the one behind, you know, in the red sweatshirt, what might he be saying or thinking? But all of these things, these 3 options, the first option, reread for a special purpose, is something that, or for reread with intention, is something that, let me just go back, sorry, don't get car sick as I move through all these slides. Oh, my book, well, it's like going down memory lane. Okay, so this first option, rereading, reread, to rethink, and to talk, we can teach children a variety of possibilities and purposes for rereading, so that when they say, we're done, I'm done, and we say, okay, reread your books, they've got things to do, instead of just throwing their eyes across the pages and saying, I'm done rereading, and then we say, reread it again. And we get into that cycle. But this way we are just, they've got things to do, and ways they can play around with rereading. So option number 1, those would be mini lesson ideas. And sorry, you guys, I'm going to move through this again. Option number 2, what's this about? When we want to help the child think of the book as a whole, and to be able to start to get an idea and have clues from the text or evidence from the text to support their idea. So those things we would teach. We could teach in read aloud. We could teach that in mini lessons. We could teach this in small group instruction. Could teach this in conferences. We could teach this during writing. when they write their books. We could say, oh, so what is this about? And just see what they say. It's about my mom. And then I might say, well, it is about a lot of stuff with your mom and all the different things she does in a day. It makes me think your mom is pretty busy. And anyway, you see how you could apply that to writing. And then this third one, where we want, sorry, as I move through these things again, I should have maybe made these slides. Okay, sorry. A third option, what might the characters be thinking or saying? This really, we lift this off of play, because if you watch children play with dolls or toys or boxes or Legos or Playmobiles or they're always imagining what those little objects might be thinking or saying, and they role play, possibilities as they're playing with those little objects. And this is just a way of treating these two-dimensional, unnamed Jane and John Doe and Rover Doe characters, if they're animals, in these books, these little books. It's a way of treating these as more three-dimensional characters. What might they be thinking? What might they be saying here? And one of the really fun things to do is when your young children are in partnerships, that's teaching them that this is a way that they can play with their books together. They can act out their stories and be characters, thought bubbles, and talk bubbles. And so one fun thing that I've seen a teacher do is a picture book that, when you feel the heat around a picture book that you've read aloud to your class and that children really, they really love it, if you're making color copies of the page and giving kids little sticky note thought bubble, talk bubbles, and that they can imagine what a character might be thinking or saying on that page. And you could, posting those kinds of things can also provide examples, posting them in charts. And the last little thing to say about this is the power of wordless picture books. I think in our determination to support children in decoding as early as they can, as soon as they can, which, can sometimes be imposed. We'll never mind on that. But anyway, the rush to decoding might cause us to feel like, well, where would wordless picture books fit into my kids' lives? Why would I have them spend time with wordless picture books? Well, wordless picture books are it's free range thinking. There's so many different interpretations of how those books can go and what characters in those books might say and think. And it's a real, it's very liberating, I think, for kids to play around in those. And if you play around in those, then they might be more free thinking in their own books. Now, one little thing to say here is if a child looked at this page with the dog sitting in the car and the thought bubble was, what time is lunch? Or is my mom getting me pretty soon? Or like, I don't know, some random, not connected to the story or to the text or to the character, which could happen, I would support the child and to just really, let's think about the clues on the page to get an idea what this character might be thinking. So our dog likes to sit in the car. So do you think the dog is going to say, oh, I hate this car? Probably not, right? What might he say? So anyway, just to hold the child, to tether the child a little bit. Let me restate that. To tether the child's thinking so it's a little bit closer to the text itself. And so anyway, let me just come back out of this for a second and talk to you. Okay, so here I am again. So I hope this was helpful in thinking about ways when you're sitting beside a child who is reading a book that again, I'll say it for the 100th time, they've read a million times, or that is just feels so thin that you don't know. It's I always think of books as sponges that are heavy with water, and we just try to squeeze. I'm squeezing a sponge here with my hands. We just try to squeeze all the possibilities, all the opportunities for thought out of it. And we might look at these books and think, well, there's really not that much to squeeze out. But I hope these 3 ideas have given you some food for thought to, as you approach children next week who are reading books like this. And so I'm just going to go back into my PowerPoint for the very last slide here. Let me just see what's next. So we're getting close to wrapping up, and I just want to, at first I thanked a couple people, but at the end here I just want to thank the Educator Collaborative and Chris Lehman for inviting me to participate today. I was so scared, and they were so nice. Kristi, it's always good to see you, although I'd rather see you in person than in the little square on the bottom of my screen. But I love your work, and I think people really need to find you, whether it's your blog or your books with Marjorie Martinelli. Ryan talked me up on Thursday night to help me get organized for this, and then Brian Sweeney talked me down today because I was so nervous to set me up right before we began. I think it's right to thank all the educators everywhere who are doing what is right for children. I thank my family who left the premises temporarily, and then for everyone who made my first time doing this a nice time. So thank you all so much. So Brian's someplace with us.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can they hear you?
I think so. I hope so.
Okay.
What I can do, though, as you're wrapping up, we have some tweets here.
Okay.
Nobody's really asking questions. They're just saying how much they love everything you're saying, which is nice. But I'm thinking maybe I can show you some if you want to click on me, and maybe they'll say something that might prompt something from you, and if not, you'll just see some great feedback, and then we'll close out.
Okay, that sounds great. So, and if you guys have any questions or critical feedback, give it a tweet. And so, Brian, is this how it should look for everybody?
Yes.
Should I stop screen sharing?
I think you're fine. I
Okay.
should have taken over now, and if you click on me, you should see a tweet from Lori Carter.
Okay. Wordless picture books are a great way to jumpstart deeper student thinking about the story and character actions. And the other thing about wordless picture books that I love so much for pre-K, K1, 2, 5, 6 is they're great equalizers. Your most proficient decoders are in the same place as children who are not as proficient decoders when you're looking at wordless picture books. And it's such a great way to mix children up. Often partnerships tend to be kids who are at or near the same level, or guided reading groups are children at or near the same level. So sometimes kids can see the same readers all the time, and I think wordless picture books are a wonderful opportunity to really mix kids up and give them different surface areas of readers and thinkers with whom they can read, think, and talk with. So thank you, Lori A. Carter. Literacy docent, I see you. You know what? I love docent. I love the idea of docent. So you've got a nice name, Susan D. Love this idea. Talk and think bubbles. Great way to get students to think deeply. Yes, do it. And you guys give it a try and share some of the fun things that you see happening with your kids. Thank you, Susan.
There's a lot of response about the talk bubbles.
Yeah, and is this Dan Redding?
Yeah.
Make a talk bubble to help students. Oh, so by imagining characters' voices. Go, Dan Redding.
Here, I'll give you one more on the talk
Okay.
bubbles, and then we'll see what else we have.
Okay.
Let's see. Here's Megan.
Okay. Oh, hey, Megan Looney. I love your name so hard. It reminds me of Maggie Moon. But anyway, hi, Maggie Moon. Okay, loving the idea of the thought and talk bubbles to help students dig deeper into character. Thank you, Megan Looney.
Let's see. The one other thing we have is a lot of people responding to your charts.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. You know what? You responded, if you like charts, check out Chart Chums and Smarter Charts. But what kinds of things? Anchor chart, why we reread. And you know what? I want to just say something. I have talked about rereading equals rethinking for years, thinking it was my little idea, but it isn't. I lifted that. I reread Ellen Keene's work, and she said it. And so now I'm backpedaling, and I want everybody to know that just that little bumper sticker, rereading is rethinking, was something that I picked up from Ellen Keene and then put in my pocket and then thought it was my own. So yeah, so rereading, giving kids purposes for that is so important. So Krista, even in intense teaching like one-to-one conference, we can always give students choice. Oh, yes, choice. We like to be choicey and as much as we can. And I see you've got Barb's name in there. Hey, Barb out there. But choice is so important, and it gives children, to quote Peter Johnston, the sense of agency that is so important for a learner. And any opportunity to provide them with choice is a wise choice on our part, I think.
Yeah, I think I clicked on Krista retweeting Barb. So here's
and there's Barb.
Barb, yeah.
Hey, Barb. So thank you, guys. I can't believe you're out there. Barb, I think you're in Taiwan, but maybe I'm wrong. You're like, where's Waldo? But anyway, well,
I think that's about it. That's the there are more, but it's more of the same kind of thought.
Okay, well, Brian, thank you so much for being such a patient mentor. Was this just a webinar I did?
Well,
or what would you call it?
I don't know. It's different. Like we've got you went up from like a number of people watching, and then as the tweets kept coming in and being retweeted, the people watching increased. So it's I feel like a webinar is kind of closed, and this was a little different just because of the open nature of it. So
crowdsource webinar-esque Twitterverse thing we just did. I just thank you so much, everybody, and Chris Lehman. Thank you for inviting me, and I am excited now. I get to watch other people, and so anyway, well, you guys all have a great day and or a great night if you're going to watch it next Wednesday night, but or whenever. But thank you all so much.
Great, thank you.
Okay.